Connecticut Sun forward Alyssa Thomas and Indiana Fever coach Christy Sides both called for the abusive comments toward W players to stop during their respective post-game news conferences following Game 2 on Wednesday night. Thomas went as far as to ask the league to step in to do something about the behavior.
You got me down again.
When sports rivalries go beyond the court, they take on a life of their own. The ongoing tension between Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark has become much more than a battle between two star players. It's a flashpoint for discussing race, identity, and the way the WNBA promotes its athletes. But are these conversations deepening the sport, or are they exposing a divide that runs deeper than basketball? Let's break it down. Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark faced off in a highly anticipated playoff series. Clark, the rookie sensation from Iowa, had electrified the league with her dominant performances, and Thomas, a veteran of the WNBA, had built a reputation for toughness and grit. The clash was inevitable, and fans expected fireworks. In a hard-fought game, tensions boiled over when Thomas set a brutal screen on Clark, knocking her to the floor. The incident ignited a flurry of reactions. Clark, known for her resilience, bounced back up, but the fans didn't let it go. Soon, Thomas was facing backlash, accused of playing dirty and taking out her frustrations on the young star. But Thomas didn't take the criticism lightly. She flipped the narrative, claiming that much of the backlash wasn't just about her play, but rooted in something deeper: race.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
The rivalry between Thomas and Clark isn't just about basketball. It's a lens through which we can examine the complex intersections of race, fandom, and identity in the WNBA. Thomas's accusation that Clark's fans were racially motivated in their criticism opened up a conversation that has long been simmering under the surface of women's sports. Clark, a white player, has become the new face of the WNBA, while most of the league's players, including Thomas, are black. Some have argued that Clark's rapid rise to stardom has been fueled in part by her race, with the league and media placing her front and center as their next marketable superstar. The WNBA, historically focused on inclusion and diversity, suddenly finds itself in a challenging position. How do they promote their brightest new talent while ensuring that long-standing stars like Thomas and Angel Reese don't feel sidelined? Clark's emergence has been meteoric. Her dominance on the court and charisma off it have drawn comparisons to LeBron James and Stephen Curry. Fans are flocking to her games, and ratings are spiking. However, as her star rises, some players, like Thomas, feel the spotlight is being unfairly taken away from the veterans who have long carried the league. Thomas' complaints about racism may stem from more than just frustration over one game. It could represent a broader concern that the WNBA's emphasis on marketability is leaving behind its core values of equity and representation. During the heated playoff matchup, Thomas alleged that Clark's fans had subjected her to racial abuse.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. You know, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but we don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled for, and something needs to be done, whether it's, you know, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it anymore.
Whether these claims are true or not, they highlight a tension between the league's marketing strategy and the realities of race relations in the U.S. The question remains, is Clark being unfairly elevated because she fits a certain image, or is this simply the consequence of a new talent eclipsing the old guard? The WNBA has always prided itself on being a progressive league, pushing boundaries on social justice issues and championing diversity. But the rise of Caitlin Clark has created a marketing dilemma. The league desperately needs a star to capture mainstream attention and boost ratings, and Clark fits that bill. She's a phenomenal player with massive crossover appeal, attracting not just traditional WNBA fans, but casual viewers who might otherwise ignore women's basketball. But with this increased focus on Clark comes resentment. Players like Thomas and Reese, both incredibly talented in their own right, wonder why they're not receiving the same level of attention, despite their consistent performances and contributions to the league. The WNBA, in its bid to grow the sport, runs the risk of alienating some of its most important athletes by appearing to favor marketability over merit. Clark's rise is great for the WNBA in the short term. Ratings are up, more people are attending games, and her jersey sales are through the roof. But if her popularity continues to overshadow the contributions of veteran stars like Thomas, it could backfire. Thomas's racial claims could gain traction if other players start to feel the same way, that the league is willing to sideline its black athletes in favor of a new, marketable face. In her post-game comments, Thomas painted a picture of a league divided. "There's no place for racism in our sport," she said, "but it feels like sometimes the league is more interested in selling the next big thing than supporting its players." It's a delicate balance the WNBA must strike. How to market a white star in a predominantly black league without alienating the players who have built the WNBA into what it is today. Clark's talent is undeniable, but is the league doing enough to ensure all players feel valued and respected? As the rivalry between Thomas and Clark continues, it will be interesting to see how the WNBA handles these tensions. Will they continue to push Clark as the face of the league, or will they make a conscious effort to promote all of their stars equally? What's clear is that the dynamics between these players are far from resolved. Clark, for her part, has stayed relatively quiet on the matter, preferring to let her game do the talking. But as the league looks to the future, it will have to contend with these deeper issues of race and identity if it wants to avoid alienating both players and fans. The feud between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas is more than just a personal rivalry. It's a reflection of larger issues within the WNBA. As the league navigates this tricky terrain, it must find a way to promote its stars, tackle accusations of racial bias, and maintain its identity as a progressive force in sports. How they manage this could shape the future of women's basketball for years to come.
Those guys, they're the racists when really y'all are the racists.
You got me down again.
In the wake of Caitlin Clark's playoff exit, a new scandal is shaking up the WNBA. Alyssa Thomas has been suspended following accusations of a racially motivated assault on Clark during a heated playoff game. This incident has sparked widespread debate, not only over player safety, but also over deeper issues of race within the league. Thomas claims that racial abuse from Clark's fan base has contributed to the ongoing tension, but her actions during the game are raising even more eyebrows. Let's dive into the story. In a pivotal playoff matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, emotions were already running high. Clark, fresh off a historic rookie season, was looking to cement her place as one of the WNBA's biggest stars. Meanwhile, Alyssa Thomas, a veteran of the league, was eager to lead the Sun to victory. What should have been a competitive, hard-fought game turned controversial in an instant when a physical altercation broke out. During the game, Thomas was accused of a deliberate and aggressive move toward Clark, which many labeled as a racist assault. The action resulted in an immediate uproar among fans and analysts alike. The Fever were eliminated from the playoffs, but the real story emerging from the game was the alleged racial undertone of Thomas's actions. As details emerged, WNBA officials moved quickly, suspending Alyssa Thomas. The decision was met with mixed reactions from the public. Some praised the WNBA for taking a strong stand against any behavior that could be construed as racially motivated. Others questioned the severity of the punishment, suggesting it was a hasty decision made under public pressure without full evidence. What makes this story even more complicated is that Thomas didn't just face punishment on the court. During the post-game interview, Thomas did not shy away from addressing the issue. Instead of expressing regret or reflecting on her performance, she shifted the focus to the treatment she received from fans. According to Thomas, she had been subjected to racial abuse throughout the series, particularly from Clark's fan base, which she accused of being racist.
It's unacceptable, honestly. And yeah, there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it. You know, we come to play basketball for our job and it's fun, but we don't want to go to work every day and have social media blown up over things like that. It's uncalled for, and something needs to be done, whether it's, you know, them checking their fans or this league checking. There's no time for it anymore.
Thomas's comments lit a firestorm in the media. In her post-game interview, she claimed that throughout her 11-year career, she had never experienced such racially charged abuse until this season. She directly pointed the finger at Clark's supporters, alleging that their admiration for the star player was laced with racial biases.
I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base.
Her words sparked a larger conversation about race and fandom in the WNBA. Fans and analysts alike were left wondering, is there a deeper racial tension brewing in the WNBA? Or was this simply a desperate deflection from a player trying to shift attention away from her playoff performance? This isn't the first time that Clark and Thomas have been at odds. Earlier in the season, during a regular season matchup, tensions boiled over between the two when Thomas set a hard screen that sent Clark to the floor. Though Thomas was penalized for the play, the incident added fuel to an already simmering rivalry. Clark, however, has largely stayed out of the fray. She has not responded directly to Thomas's claims or engaged in the controversy surrounding their previous encounters. Instead, she has focused on her game, letting her historic rookie season speak for itself. This has only further endeared her to her growing fan base, which includes a mix of traditional WNBA fans and newcomers drawn to her record-breaking performances. One of the most intriguing aspects of this story is the media's role in shaping public perception. Some sports pundits have accused the media of fanning the flames by amplifying Thomas's accusations without sufficient evidence.
Instagram and Twitter, these are choices we make. There's an easy way. The league doesn't have to get involved. The Indiana Fever don't have to do something to get you away from social media. Put your phone down. Don't download the apps. Don't engage.
Others argue that these conversations are long overdue, as they bring to light the challenges that Black athletes continue to face in a predominantly white-dominated fan culture. Critics of the media's handling of the situation point out that while Clark has received overwhelming praise and attention for her on-court accomplishments, there has been relatively little coverage of how race factors into her rising stardom.
Caitlin Clark is Kunta Clark. She's the actual slave that everybody else is exploiting for their benefit. Angel Reese included at the top of that list. Now Alyssa Thomas jumps in and says, oh, let me get my piece.
This has led to further conversations about whether the WNBA, and by extension, its media partners, are doing enough to address the racial dynamics at play within the league. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas and the racial allegations have put the WNBA in a difficult position. The league must now address multiple issues: the integrity of the game, the safety of its players, and the deeper racial tensions that have been brought to the surface. With Clark out of the playoffs and Thomas suspended, the WNBA will need to navigate the fallout carefully to avoid alienating fans on either side of the debate. Moving forward, the league may need to reassess how it handles these types of incidents. Are suspensions enough, or should there be further investigations into the broader claims of racial abuse made by Thomas? And how can the WNBA foster a more inclusive environment for all its players and fans? While this story is still unfolding, it's clear that the rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas has become symbolic of larger issues within the WNBA. Their on-court clashes and off-court drama have exposed divisions within the fan base and raised questions about how race, gender, and power dynamics intersect in women's professional sports. Clark's rookie season may have ended on a sour note with the Fever's playoff exit, but her legacy is far from complete. As for Alyssa Thomas, her future in the league remains uncertain. Will she be able to recover from this scandal, or will this suspension mark a turning point in her career? Regardless of what happens next, the impact of this incident will be felt for years to come. Both Clark and Thomas are incredibly talented athletes who have helped to raise the profile of the WNBA. But as this situation proves, talent alone is not enough to navigate the complexities of fame, race, and public perception in today's world. The suspension of Alyssa Thomas for a racially charged altercation with Caitlin Clark is more than just a sports story. It's a cultural moment. It highlights the racial dynamics at play within the WNBA and forces fans and players alike to confront uncomfortable truths about fandom, privilege, and representation in women's sports. As the WNBA grapples with these issues, one thing is clear. This controversy is far from over. In the end, both Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas will continue to play key roles in shaping the future of the WNBA. How the league handles their rivalry and the underlying tensions will be a defining moment not only for women's basketball, but for sports as a whole.
Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the WNBA.
You got me down again.
The rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Dejanai Carrington reached a boiling point in the 2024 WNBA playoffs when Carrington's controversial eye poke on Clark sparked outrage. This incident, occurring in the Fever's opening playoff game, saw Clark visibly frustrated, with fans and media questioning why no foul was called. Many speculated whether the act was intentional, while Clark's struggles post-incident highlighted the impact, scoring only 11 points and shooting just 4 of 17. This incident triggered a much larger discussion around player safety, officiating, and rising tensions in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark had entered the game as one of the league's rising stars, but the incident has brought issues like officiating inconsistencies and physical play into the spotlight. Many fans have been quick to criticize the WNBA's lack of action, with some arguing that Clark's importance to the league warranted a stronger response from officials. Carrington's history of physical play and her previous interactions with Clark also fueled the conversation, leading some to speculate that there might have been more to the eye poke than a simple accident. As Clark voiced her frustrations post-game, it became clear that the incident had shaken her. "I felt like I was getting hammered, and no one was calling it," she said, expressing the challenges she's faced with physical defense in her debut WNBA season. Clark's offensive struggles were evident as she missed 8 straight three-pointers, ultimately impacting the Fever's ability to keep up with the Sun. For Carrington, her role as an aggressive defender was once again in the spotlight, with fans and pundits questioning if she had crossed the line. The WNBA community didn't stay silent following the incident. Social media erupted with fans calling for the league to review the play and penalize Carrington for what they saw as an intentional foul. Despite the uproar, no immediate foul was called, and the game continued without a review, leaving fans and players frustrated. Many in the media also weighed in on the situation, noting that if a male star like LeBron James or Steph Curry had been involved in a similar incident, the response from officials would likely have been swift. The lack of protection for Clark, one of the WNBA's brightest young stars, was seen as a failure on the league's part to properly handle player safety concerns. However, Carrington's supporters argued that the eye poke was accidental, a result of the fast-paced and physical nature of the game. They pointed out that Carrington has always been a tough, hard-nosed defender who plays with intensity. Whether intentional or not, the incident has opened up a broader conversation about the fine line between physical play and unsportsmanlike conduct in the WNBA. Clark and Carrington's playoff clash wasn't just about the eye poke. It symbolized a larger issue of rising tensions in the WNBA, particularly around physical play and officiating. Clark, as a standout rookie, has drawn significant attention, and with that attention comes a target. She's been subjected to physical play throughout the season, with defenders constantly looking for ways to slow her down. In her own words, Clark expressed that she's felt like a punching bag at times, as teams use more aggressive tactics to stop her. Carrington, known for her physical defense, has had her own moments of controversy throughout the season, with several other players raising concerns about her style of play. For many, this incident was just the tipping point, as frustrations over the league's officiating boiled over. Some argue that the league's desire to protect its stars, like Clark, should come with stricter regulations on physical play, while others believe that the WNBA should embrace the intensity and competitiveness that comes with hard-fought games. As the dust settles from the Clark-Carrington incident, it's clear that the WNBA is facing a crossroads. The league has seen a surge in popularity in recent years, with players like Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson becoming household names. However, incidents like the eye poke bring attention to the league's handling of player safety, officiating, and maintaining a balance between physical play and fair competition. Many believe that the WNBA needs to take a closer look at how it manages physical play and what actions need to be taken to protect its players. Should the league continue to allow aggressive defense, or should stricter penalties be enforced to prevent incidents like Clark's eye poke from happening again? While the immediate fallout from the eye poke incident may eventually subside, its impact on the rivalry between Clark and Carrington will likely linger. As both players continue their careers, this incident will undoubtedly remain a talking point, with fans and media keeping a close eye on their future matchups. Now let's dive deeper into the impact of the incident between Caitlin Clark and DeJohnai Carrington, and how it not only sparked controversy, but also shines a light on broader issues within the WNBA. This event wasn't just about one incident. It has created ripple effects across the league, bringing up conversations around player safety, officiating standards, rivalries, and the unique pressures faced by WNBA stars like Clark. Caitlin Clark's rookie season in the WNBA was one of historic milestones and high expectations. She dominated the court and played a significant role in rejuvenating the Indiana Fever franchise, which hadn't seen playoff success in years. Her ability to break records and lead her team immediately made her a standout in the league. However, the physical toll of that success began to show, especially as defenders sought to contain her on the court. Clark has often expressed frustration with the level of physical defense she faces, which she feels is sometimes ignored by the officials. After the incident with DeJohnai Carrington, those frustrations boiled over, as Clark pointed out, "I feel like I'm getting hammered." It's a sentiment many star players, especially in their rookie seasons, can relate to. The physicality that comes with defending elite players like Clark is sometimes overshadowed by the excitement of their offensive prowess. However, this level of aggression also raises questions about the fairness of officiating, especially in games where the stakes are high. Clark's eye poke incident was not reviewed, and many fans believe the officials let her down by failing to protect one of the league's top talents. This event has left some questioning whether the league is doing enough to shield its stars from overly aggressive plays. DeJohnai Carrington has developed a reputation as a tough, physical defender. Known for her intensity, she's the kind of player who takes pride in making life difficult for opponents, particularly stars like Clark. However, Carrington's approach has sparked controversy, with many arguing that her physical style often crosses the line into. The eye poke incident involving Clark highlighted this debate. Some have defended Carrington, stating that it was an accident and part of the aggressive nature of playoff basketball. Others, however, believe that Carrington intentionally targeted Clark, given their history of tense matchups during the regular season. Whether intentional or not, the incident has cast a spotlight on Carrington's play, consistently pushed the limits of physical play. The tension between Clark and Carrington is not an isolated incident. It points to a larger challenge the WNBA is currently facing as it navigates its growing popularity. As the league gains more attention, the pressure on players increases, and with it, the level of competition becomes fiercer. The WNBA is no longer just a showcase for elite talent. It's a battleground where players are fighting not only for wins, but also for their place in the league's narrative. For the WNBA, balancing the need for physical, competitive play with players like the eye poke forced the league to confront tough questions about how far players can go in their pursuit of victory and whether more stringent measures need to be put in place to protect its biggest stars. First and foremost, the league must address the concerns around player safety and officiating. Whether through stricter enforcement of rules or better training for referees, the WNBA needs to ensure that incidents like this one are handled properly and that players like Clark are protected on the court. Additionally, the league has the chance to leverage the rivalry between Clark and players like Carrington to boost its popularity. Rivalries are a key component of any successful sports league, and the WNBA should embrace the passion and intensity that these matchups bring. However, the league must also ensure that these rivalries remain healthy and respectful, avoiding the kind of unsportsmanlike conduct that could harm its reputation. Finally, the WNBA has an opportunity to continue its conversations around race, identity, and inclusion. As the league becomes more visible, it must confront the realities of how race impacts the experiences of its players, both on and off the court. By fostering an environment where all players feel supported, the WNBA can set an example for other professional sports leagues. The eye poke incident between Caitlin Clark and Dejounte Carrington is more than just a controversial play. It's a defining moment for the WNBA. It has sparked discussions around player safety, officiating, rivalries, and identity, all of which are critical to the league's future growth. How the WNBA responds to these challenges will shape the path forward for women's basketball and determine whether the league can continue its rise to prominence. For Caitlin Clark, this incident is just one chapter in what is sure to be a storied career. For Dejounte Carrington, it's a reminder of the fine line between physical defense and going too far. And for the WNBA, it's a wake-up call to ensure that the league is ready for the challenges that come with growing popularity and increased competition.